All right, so get ready because we're going deep into some seriously creepy cosmic horror today.
Oh, yeah.
You sent us a ton of stuff on Atropus, and let me tell you, this thing, the stuff of nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking excerpts from Elder Evils, a whole Atropus.pdf file, even a map of its seriously messed up moonlet. Sounds like you're about to run your players through a campaign they won't forget anytime soon, and we are here to help you make it unforgettable.
What really grabs you about Atropus right off the bat is that this isn't like your average dungeon threat.
Yeah.
This is a celestial body like with an appetite for destruction on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
It's the kind of antagonist you build an entire campaign around.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't some side quest. This is like the main event.
Yeah.
The source material even, like hints at using Atropus as a potential endgame, like a world-ending threat that just looms larger with every session.
Exactly. You don't just throw this at a group of level 3 adventurers.
Right.
The players need time to understand the sheer scale of what they're facing.
Oh, yeah.
To watch as the world slowly unravels around them.
Okay, so let's lay some groundwork here.
Sure.
For those who, might not be familiar with this cosmic horror, what exactly is Atropus?
So, at its core, Atropus is a moonlet, a small moon just kind of drifting out there in the void.
Okay.
But this is not your average celestial body. It's a living entity that sustains itself by devouring the life energy of entire planets.
Whoa.
And growing ever larger with each feast.
Like a cosmic parasite.
A very apt comparison. And its ultimate goal, complete and utter annihilation of all life.
Oh, wow.
Driven by an insatiable hunger, a singular purpose, to consume and to grow.
That's chilling, man. From a storytelling perspective, that is incredibly powerful.
Oh, for sure.
But before it just shows up and starts snacking on planets, we see signs, right? Like a cosmic warning system.
Absolutely. The source material calls these Atropuses signs, and they are a brilliant way to ratchet up the tension, to foreshadow the coming apocalypse.
Yeah.
It starts subtly, like with the Restless Dead, for example, where, corpses begin to rise from their graves. Right. Unsettling, but it gets much, much worse.
Oh, it gets bad.
Oh, yeah.
We've got descriptions here of the blood moon, where the moon takes on this eerie crimson hue, and the dead sun plunging the world into perpetual twilight.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the psychological impact that would have on an entire civilization?
Societal collapse, basically.
Oh.
You'd have cults dedicated to appeasing Atropus would rise, desperate pleas for salvation would, echo from every corner of the world.
Yeah.
You've got a breeding ground for some seriously compelling role-playing opportunities there.
And these signs, they escalate, right? We're talking about alien infestations.
Oh, yeah.
Bizarre weather phenomena, crops growing at terrifying speeds, even the very air becoming hot enough to ignite.
It's like a ladder of escalating cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Each sign linked to a specific elder evil, with Atropus laying claim to several.
Right.
The world isn't just ending, it's coming apart at the seams.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You've got these vile feats, essentially dark gifts bestowed upon Atropus's most devoted servants.
These feats represent the insidious corrupting influence of Atropus.
Right.
You've got things like apostate, which makes it harder to resist divine magic used against you. Dark speech, the ability to command swarms of vermin with just a whisper.
Wow.
An enemy of good, where you just radiate this aura of palpable evil.
See, those would be terrifying for players to encounter in an NPC.
Oh, absolutely.
But can you imagine if one of their companions started exhibiting these powers?
Oh, man.
Talk about a moral dilemma.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of terrifying servants, we've got quite a lineup in these sources.
We do. Gorget, for instance.
Okay.
He is a powerful undead general obsessed with paving the way for Atropus's arrival.
Yeah.
A classic example of a recurring villain.
Okay.
Someone the players could clash with multiple times throughout the campaign.
He sounds like a real piece of work.
Oh, yeah.
Then there's Caneria Zastan, a priestess driven mad by grief,
Right.
seeking revenge against the very gods she once served.
Right.
Tragic, but also absolutely terrifying.
Her story really highlights how Atropus can exploit these personal tragedies, twisting them towards its own, insidious goals.
Yeah.
She's a complex character, both pitiable and dangerous.
We've also got the Bleak General, a Bodak, commanding legions of undead.
Right.
And his mount, Sky Shadow, which is literally formed from solidified shadow.
Wow.
Can you imagine the cinematic potential of that encounter?
Oh, it sends chills down my spine just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the moonlit itself.
Right. Atropus' physical manifestation.
The desolate wasteland, a physical embodiment of Atropus's hunger,
Yes.
low gravity, a harsh environment, and the constant threat of the void.
It's like something straight out of a nightmare.
It really is.
Think of it as the final battleground.
Go.
A desolate world where the players have to confront Atropus in its own domain.
And it's not just an empty rock.
No, not all.
We've got descriptions of terrifying encounter areas like the Ichor Sea, a vast expanse of necrotic sludge, the great depth of bottomless abyss that whispers secrets of madness.
Oh, yeah.
Craters that spew poisonous gas. And my personal favorite, the Bone Field.
Where the very ground itself is composed of the bones of Atropus's victims.
It's a truly haunting image.
And a testament to the sheer scale of destruction this entity is capable of.
It really is.
It's giving me chills.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked a lot about like the individual elements of Atropus.
Right.
But before we get too deep into the weeds, let's zoom out for a moment.
Sure.
How would you recommend incorporating this thing into a campaign?
I think subtlety is key, at least at first.
Okay.
You want to instill a sense of creeping dread, not, hit them over the head with a cosmic sledgehammer right out of the gate.
Right. Yes. Start with like whispers, rumors of strange celestial events, maybe even like a cryptic prophecy that hints at a world-ending threat from the sky.
Right.
Let the players piece it together gradually.
Precisely. Maybe they find an ancient text that mentions Atropus. Or they encounter, a traveler with a terrifying story of strange happenings in a distant land.
Right. And as they investigate, you can start introducing the signs one by one.
One by one.
Increasing in frequency and intensity as Atropus draws nearer.
Yes.
So it starts with like a few disturbed graves, then maybe a blood moon.
Right.
And suddenly people are reporting hallucinations, bizarre growths on animals.
Right.
The very fabric of reality seemingly coming undone.
And don't be afraid to tie the player's actions directly to Atropus's arrival.
Ooh, that's good.
Perhaps their quest to retrieve a powerful artifact inadvertently attracts its attention, making them directly responsible for the coming apocalypse.
Talk about pressure.
Right.
That's a fantastic way to, like, raise the stakes. But it doesn't have to be a guaranteed apocalypse, right? Like, the players could potentially stop it.
Absolutely.
Or at least hold it back.
Yeah. The source material even provides some example campaign timelines.
Okay.
Mapping out these key events based on Atropus's approach.
Right.
But even if the players manage to avert total annihilation,
right,
the scars of its arrival would remain.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the psychological impact on survivors, the societal changes, the new religions that might spring up in the wake of such an event.
Right. It's about creating a truly memorable experience, whether they win or lose.
Exactly.
Now, looking at all this material you've gathered, what stands out to you? What aspect of Atropus are you most excited to explore in your campaign?
Honestly, it's the moonlit that really grabs me.
Yeah. Not just as a final battleground, but as a setting in itself.
Right.
This desolate, low-gravity wasteland,
yes,
shrouded in perpetual darkness, teeming with bizarre creatures and pockets of raw, negative energy. It's a gold mine for eerie encounters and unsettling discoveries.
The moonlit is ripe with narrative potential. You could easily set entire arcs there with the players exploring its twisted landscape, battling its denizens, and perhaps uncovering clues about Atropus's origins or weaknesses.
Exactly. Maybe they stumble across the remnants of a civilization that cried and failed to resist Atropus, or encounter otherworldly entities drawn to the moonlit's dark energy.
Oh, yeah.
And the map you've included is incredibly useful.
Oh, for sure.
The Ichor Sea, a vast expanse of necrotic sludge. The great depth, a seemingly bottomless abyss that whispers secrets of madness. Craters spewing noxious gas. And of course the Bone Field, where the ground itself writhes with the skeletal remains of countless victims.
Ugh, it's like something straight out of a fever dream.
It really is.
It's like something straight out of a fever dream.
Okay, let's talk strategy for a moment.
Okay.
If we're talking about a campaign culminating in a showdown with Atropus, how would you approach pacing it?
We've touched on those timelines, but I'm curious to hear your take.
Right.
I'd begin subtly, letting the early signs of Atropus's approach manifest as seemingly isolated incidents.
Okay.
A few restless dead here, a
Mm-hmm.
particularly violent storm there. Nothing the players couldn't handle, but as the campaign unfolds, I'd ramp up the frequency and intensity of these events,
Okay.
mirroring Atropus's own inexorable approach.
So the players are facing increasingly powerful servants of Atropus.
Right.
The signs of its coming are becoming impossible to ignore,
Yes.
and the world around them is descending into chaos.
Exactly. You want to create a pervasive sense of dread,
Yeah.
a feeling that things are spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
Don't shy away from introducing personal stakes either.
Okay.
Maybe one of the PCs has a chillingly vivid vision of the world's destruction,
Okay.
or discovers that a loved one has been touched by Atropus's corrupting influence.
Make it personal. Make them feel the weight of their choices.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, when the tension is at its peak, bam, the moonlet appears in the sky.
Right.
The arrival of the moonlet should be a turning point in the campaign.
Oh, for sure.
It's no longer a distant threat,
Yeah.
but a terrifying reality.
Yes.
A constant reminder of impending doom hanging over their heads.
Yeah. This is the perfect time to introduce encounters with Atropus's most powerful servants, like Gorget or the Bleak General.
Those high-level battles would be incredible.
They would.
And the moonlet itself, with its alien environment and bizarre denizens, becomes a dungeon on a massive scale.
Exactly.
And the final confrontation with Atropus, if they even make it that far, would take place on this desolate rock.
Yeah.
A desperate struggle against impossible odds to save what's left of their world. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
But let's rewind a bit and talk about something you mentioned earlier, Atropus's motivations.
Right.
You said it's driven by an insatiable hunger, but is there more to it than that?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
While the source material primarily describes Atropus as a force of nature, a cosmic predator acting on instinct,
Right.
it does hint at a twisty form of sentience.
Right. Like maybe it's not just devouring worlds, but absorbing their essence, their knowledge, their history,
Exactly. Yes.
everything that made them unique.
Oh, yeah.
Or perhaps it's searching for something specific,
Mhm.
a particular source of energy, a rare configuration of celestial bodies that will finally sate its hunger. Wow.
Yeah.
Now that opens up some fascinating possibilities. What if the players discover that Atropus isn't inherently evil but just trying to survive, driven to these drastic measures by some cosmic imperative?
It could become a quest for understanding, a search for a way to reason with this cosmic horror, or perhaps even satisfy its hunger without sacrificing entire worlds.
The source material asks a chilling question. If Atropus is not a mindless force of destruction, but possesses a twisted form of sentience, how might it attempt to manipulate the PCs to further its goals?
That's a question that should haunt every GM running an Atropus campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the moral dilemmas if Atropus offers them power or knowledge in exchange for their service.
Right.
Would they be tempted to make a deal with the devil, so to speak, to save themselves or their loved ones?
It's a classic Faustian bargain on a cosmic scale.
For sure, for sure.
And the answer isn't always clear-cut.
No.
Even if they defeat Atropus, what kind of world are they left with? What price will they have paid for their victory?
These aren't just questions for your players. They're questions for you. As the architect of this campaign,
Yeah.
Atropus is a force that can test the very foundation of your world and the morals of those who inhabit it.
This is heavy stuff,
It really is.
but so good.
Oh, yeah.
We've covered the broad strokes, but let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
What specific advice would you give to someone who's actually sitting down to design encounters and adventures around Atropus?
First and foremost, embrace the weirdness.
Okay.
Atropus is a creature of cosmic horror,
Right.
so don't be afraid to push the boundaries of traditional fantasy.
Right.
This is your chance to explore the strange, the unsettling, the downright disturbing.
Think outside the dungeon, literally.
Exactly.
Draw inspiration from Lovecraftian literature, cosmic horror films,
Oh.
even abstract art.
Yeah, think about how Atropus's influence could manifest in unexpected and unsettling ways.
Right.
Instead of just having zombies attack a village, maybe the village itself begins to decay, buildings crumbling and vegetation withering before the player's eyes.
Or maybe the villagers start exhibiting strange behaviors, gripped by a collective madness as Atropus draws closer.
Precisely. Play up the psychological aspect, the fear, the paranoia, the sense that reality itself is fraying at the edges.
Yeah.
Give your players unsettling dreams.
Okay.
Visions of the moonlit, whispers of madness they can't quite shake.
Make them feel the insidious, creeping dread that Atropus embodies.
Exactly.
And what about the encounters themselves? What kind of creatures would you recommend populating this nightmare?
Undead are a natural fit, of course, but don't be afraid to get creative. The source material mentions famine spirits, grotesque, emaciated creatures that drain the life force of their victims.
Oh.
And then you have the angels of decay, celestial beings twisted and corrupted by Atropus's influence.
They sound terrifying.
They are,
Yeah.
and we have stats for them in the source material.
Okay.
Right, along with detailed descriptions and advice on how to incorporate them into your campaign.
You can also reskin existing creatures to fit the theme of Atropus.
Exactly.
A beholder, for example, could be reimagined as a void gazer.
Right.
Its central eye radiating negative energy instead of magical beams. Love it.
It's about taking familiar elements and twisting them into something unsettling and new.
Right.
Exactly. And don't forget about traps.
Okay.
The moonlit, especially, could be littered with ancient defenses designed to ward off intruders. Fueled by Atropus's own power,
Yeah.
pressure plates that trigger gravity shifts,
Oh, yeah.
pools of necrotic sludge that erupt and engulf anyone who strays too close. The possibilities are endless.
I'm picturing a cosmic horror version of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one last question before we move on. Magic.
Okay.
How does Atropus affect the use of magic in the campaign?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Remember, Atropus feeds on life energy.
Right.
And magic is often tied to life force in fantasy settings.
Right.
So as Atropus draws nearer, magic might become unreliable, unpredictable, even dangerous.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Spells could fizzle, backfire,
Florida.
or have unforeseen and potentially disastrous consequences.
Exactly, and certain types of magic might be more affected than others. Divine magic, for example, which is often associated with positive energy, and the divine could be significantly weakened or even suppressed in Atropus's presence.
While necromancy, on the other hand, might become even more potent,
Exactly.
fueled by the encroaching darkness.
It's about creating a sense of magical imbalance.
Yeah.
Reflecting the cosmic disruption that Atropus represents. The very laws of reality are bending in its presence.
This is fantastic stuff. We've covered so much ground from the overall themes of Atropus to the nitty-gritty details of encounter design. I feel like I could run a campaign tomorrow.
And remember, the source material provides a wealth of information from detailed descriptions and stat blocks to maps and even example campaign timelines.
You've got a solid foundation to build on.
For sure, for sure.
You've clearly put a lot of thought into this, and I have no doubt our listener will find your insights incredibly valuable.
It's always a pleasure to delve into such fascinating and unsettling material.
Speaking of unsettling, we haven't even touched on one of the most terrifying creatures in Atropus's arsenal, the Dread Boneyard.
The Dread Boneyard is the epitome of Atropus's terrifying power.
It's not just a skeleton,
It's not.
but a sentient, ever-shifting mass of bone, driven by a primal hunger to consume and grow. Imagine a creature formed from the skeletal remains of every creature it's ever devoured.
The source material describes the bone field on the moonlit, where the ground is literally made of bones.
Step in the wrong place and those bones pull themselves together, forming this horrifying serpentine monstrosity.
And it's not just its appearance that's unsettling.
Right.
The Dread Boneyard has some truly gruesome abilities.
Okay. It can absorb the skeletons of its victims, adding their mass to its own.
Wow.
And even summon swarms of lesser skeletons to aid it in combat. We're talking about a CR20 creature. Right. Making it a formidable challenge for even the most seasoned adventurers.
It has incredible strength and resilience, making it incredibly difficult to put down permanently.
We've even got a map of a potential encounter area, the Bone Field,
Yeah.
with an altar dedicated to Atropus at its center.
Yeah.
It looks like the players could potentially use the terrain to their advantage, but it's going to be a tough fight no matter what.
The source material suggests adding a few red dragon skeletons to the encounter for good measure.
Just to spice things up a bit. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Remember, the Dread Boneyard is just one of many horrifying creatures that inhabit the moonlit. It's a testament to Atropus's power and the cosmic horror it embodies.
Okay, one final thought to really get those creative gears turning.
Okay.
We've discussed the signs, the servants, Atropus itself as this ultimate antagonist.
A truly apocalyptic threat.
Exactly. But what if the true horror of Atropus isn't its destructive power? but its ability to warp and corrupt even the most noble intentions. Like, could fighting Atropus, even just surviving its arrival,
Right.
fundamentally change your players' characters?
Right.
Like, twist their morals, their very souls,
Oh, for sure.
leaving them husks of their former selves, even in victory.
That's the insidious thing about true cosmic horror, right? It's not always about physical destruction,
Right.
but the erosion of hope, of faith, of everything that makes us human. Imagine this. After this grueling battle against something like the Dread Boneyard,
Okay.
amidst the scattered bones, the players find a single glistening femur pulsing with this faint, sickening light.
Oh, wow.
It whispers promises of power, of forbidden knowledge, a final gift from a vanquished Atropus.
Okay.
Do they destroy it or
Right.
risk the corruption it offers?
That's a fantastic example. It's those lingering consequences, those agonizing moral compromises that make Atropus feel like inescapable, even in defeat.
And remember that map of the moonlit?
Yeah.
What if scattered amongst like the eye could see in the bone field
Yeah.
are remnants of civilizations that tried to fight back? That made pacts with Atropus for survival. The
What?
ruins whispering of their failures, of the terrible prices they paid.
It becomes less about how do you fight Atropus and more about what does winning even look like?
Exactly.
Do your players become the very thing they were fighting against just to survive?
Right. Look at those vile feats again.
Right.
Apostate, enemy of good.
Yeah.
What if victory demands that your players embrace those very powers?
Yeah.
What if defeating Atropus means becoming the embodiment of the darkness they sought to destroy?
Now that's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
We've talked about Gorget, the relentless general, and Chimaria, the priestess consumed by grief and vengeance.
Right.
But what if they're not anomalies? What if they represent points on a spectrum of corruption that your players' characters could end up on?
And it doesn't have to be overt or immediate.
Right.
What if one of the PCs starts, favoring those vile feats? Maybe they rationalize that, using the enemy's tactics is necessary, even justifiable, but it's a slippery slope.
Right. It's a slow burn, a creeping sense of unease as the players realize the line between good and evil has become, blurred, perhaps beyond recognition.
And don't forget about those descriptions of Atropus's signs.
Right.
They're not just events. Use them to foreshadow the psychological impact as well.
Okay.
Like if the blood moon hangs heavy in the sky, have NPCs whisper about, disturbing dreams,
Oh, yeah.
about urges they can't explain.
Subtle hints that the world itself is unraveling, seeping into the minds of everyone, even before the players encounter the truly terrifying stuff.
Exactly. Use that creeping dread, that pervasive sense of wrongness to your advantage.
Oh.
And don't be afraid to let your players surprise you, too. They might find ways to combat Atropus that you never even considered.
That's the beauty of tabletop role-playing games.
Oh, yeah.
It's a collaborative storytelling experience.
Exactly.
And with a threat as multifaceted as Atropus, the possibilities are truly endless.
They really are.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of cosmic horror.
My pleasure.
We hope this exploration of Atropus has given you plenty to chew on as you craft your next campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the true terror lies not just in the monster itself, but in the choices we make when confronted with unimaginable darkness.
Well said.
Until next time, happy gaming.